This is the most versatile guardian farm anyone has ever made. Let's give a quick rundown of specs. Compared to other guardian farms of questionable quality, it's easy to see that this one needs no draining, is server safe by being one-dimensional, which is good for me because I can't get a fucking job to pay for a second account, and also produces maximum experience. To elaborate, since a player can only absorb up to 10 experience orbs per second, this farm will give you 180,000 experience points per hour since guardians drop XP orbs with higher values than other popular alternatives. To actually get this max experience, you will need to kill at least 18,000 guardians per hour, yet this farm produces over 22,000 guardians, equating to producing 100,000 drops per hour with looting. And even with all that, this farm has one block that will mark the start of a new era of guardian farming, one block that affects nearly every existing guardian farm. But before I can explain how I can even make such a claim, first we need to talk about how to get so many guardians in the first place. Guardians spawn in a box around the ocean monument between Y39 and Y61, and they also have what I call a 95% rule, not that one. More specifically, if the space they try to spawn in has unimpeded skylight access, only 5% of their spawn attempts will succeed. So for example, a solid block, slab, leaf, etc. anywhere above the spawning space breaks the 95% rule as they impede skylight, while glass on the other hand, being completely transparent, does not increase the success rate. Moving blocks of any kind are also considered transparent and thus will incur this rule. But there's one extra case. Water specifically above sea level counts as impeding skylight, breaking the 95% rule. So most of the spawning area is okay due to the water already inside the farm, only requiring light to prevent regular mob spawning. The only case being the spaces at the edges of the farm that constantly clear out water, thus needing this line of leaves above. This keeps all spawning attempts inside the farm at 100% success rate, while keeping the 95% fail rate for spawn attempts outside the farm. To further concentrate the spawns, the player is located at the corner of the monument at Y181. This way, the number of spawning spaces outside the farm is reduced to a minimum, and any that do spawn outside will eventually sink and despawn from being too far away from the player. This is further improved with magma blocks under the pistons and slime blocks, dragging guardians down faster than idle sinking would. Those that do spawn in the farm are shot up with soul sand bubble columns and would need to be funneled to the player. Slime blocks are used to launch the guardians to one central point. This is much faster than other pushing methods, but we need to keep the spawning algorithm in mind. When trying to spawn mobs, the game first chooses a random X and Z coordinate, and then in that column of blocks chooses a random Y value between the bottom of the world and the highest non-air block, and will try to spawn mobs at that Y level. To increase the chances the game chooses a Y value inside the farm, the amount of blocks above the guardian farm should be reduced as much as possible. This is commonly referred to as the height map, and is evident with the fence gates around the farm, reducing height map while keeping the guardians inside and also being transparent. But there's a problem. The best funnel with regards to the height map doesn't power. Depending on which piston gets processed first, they think they are trying to push more blocks than they are allowed to. For this to actually work, the pistons would need to fire in a determined order starting from the top. And some of you might be thinking, well duh, Redstone Dust doesn't have a real update order, you got me. But here, rails have an update order from back to front and it still doesn't work. You see, pistons are processed in its own phase, called the block event phase. This is separate from all other redstone components, so conventional update order is out the window. You might also think to cascade repeaters going downwards too. However, there's a much simpler and arguably cheaper solution if we truly understand how pistons work. In Java Edition, pistons, dispensers, and droppers can be what is called quasi-powered, which is basically where they can respond to power sources from one extra block above it. However, they don't receive the update to power. This puts them in a state where they can respond with an output upon detecting a block update, making this setup a block update detector, or BUD for short. What's beautiful about BUD power is that we can create a deterministic order of updates by controlling how the pistons receive their update. Let me explain. Let's take this setup. a line of pistons and one more pushing down this slime bar, and let's quasi-power them. All the pistons are now in a bud state. If we update the leftmost piston first, it will extend first and take the rest of the pistons down with the slime bar. Very obvious. However, what happens if we update the rightmost piston first? Well, it will extend and only update the neighboring piston, which will also cause it to extend and cascade the update across, making none of the pistons stick to the slime bar. This is essentially a piston update order, and it works because we manipulated how the quasi-powered pistons receive an update. Now let's apply this to the funnel design we want and quasi-power all the pistons. Since the bottom rows can't power due to the rows above, we start by updating the topmost row first with a note block. Now to cascade the update to the next row, we can't just use a regular redstone component as mentioned earlier, so instead we'll use another piston, which is also quasi-powered from the same line and is updated by an extra block on the top slime bar. So now the top row extends first, updates this downwards facing piston, which then extends and updates the next row below, and this repeats. We essentially created our desired piston update order by delaying the update of the lower pistons with a single redstone line. And this isn't what it looks like in game, I'm just trying to be helpful. This is what it looks like in game. There's no delay. Everything I just mentioned happens within a single instance of game time, also known as a game tick. This manipulation of piston order is called block event delay, or BED for short. There are many forms and applications of BED, and you have likely used it too without even knowing, but they all revolve around achieving a desired piston order within a single instance of time by manipulating how each piston updates each other. And this is just one of many things that makes Java's redstone system so flexible. BED drastically reduces the redstone cost of the funnel, reducing what would be repeaters and possibly observers to just a mere redstone line with some extra pistons. And I know someone will skip this and still ask what the extra pistons do. This already happened before, insulting the fact that I wasted an entire semester explaining this shit. Like, what the fuck is it with these Gen Beta questions? Lazy fucking people, I swear to. Lastly, to get the funnel working, a 6 game tick clock is used, using leafstone, which I'm going to assume you know by this point, to generate a clock signal with 3 game ticks on and 3 game ticks off, making the funnel run as fast as possible. And just so you know, this clock was suggested by this crazy man. Now with all the guardians showing up, we need a decent kill chamber. When a player hits an entity with a sword, other nearby entities get affected by a sweep attack. What mobs get hit with the sweep attack depends on 2 ranges. First is a box around the initial entity hit, where the dimensions are based on the entity's collision box, expanded by 1 block horizontally and 1/4 of a block vertically. And the second area being a 3 block radius around the bottom center of the player, or its foot position as it's called. If the collision box of a mob is inside the first box and the foot position of said mob is in the 3 block radius, they get hit with a sweep attack. And while for most mobs a 3 wide kill chamber is the limit, as armor stands are too skinny, guardians are slightly wider. If the armor stand is centered between 2 blocks using a wall and the player is centered using the thin edge of the wall, the areas line up where you can actually get a 4 wide kill chamber just for guardians. This can even be taken a step further with raft looting. Mobs riding a vehicle don't count towards the mob cap, the hidden value the game uses to determine when to stop spawning mobs. So many good mob farms use boats to suck in entities and thus remove them from the mob cap, even during its 1-second death animation. This was initially introduced by MD. Mobs in bamboo rafts, however, have different sitting positions than normal boats, and guardians just so happen to be perfect with rafts, as their drops spawn completely outside the raft's collision box, allowing for easier collection. These 2 things combined give us the amount of guardians we need for max XP. However, there's a small issue: the thorns effect. Hitting a guardian with their spikes out will deal knockback along with 1.5 hearts of damage to the player in hard mode, or 3 damage as I'll call it. It is possible to tank it without needing to eat food even in older versions, but you need several things: a full set of protection diamond armor, a resistance 2 beacon, and a boosted regeneration beacon, which to no to name already explained in the past, so I'm not doing that here. However, this isn't always reliable. If your game lags relative to your auto clicker, you'll start taking both the thorns and starvation starvation damage and will eventually die from not being able to leverage your immunity properly. But what exactly is this immunity? When a mob or player is attacked, they flash red for half a second to indicate immunity to extra attacks. But the game only gives the victim pseudo immunity, which basically means that the final damage after the immunity ends is always the attack with the highest damage. Any attack less than or equal to the initial damage is ignored. This explains why arrows of harming are completely useless, as the target always iframes the low damage harming effect from the high damage arrow. This is also why you almost never see Haste 2 used in mob farms. While the player can sweep every 0.45 seconds with the Haste 2, immunity lasts 0.5 seconds. If you don't one-shot the mob, that mob will just iframe the next equal damage swing attack, making the killing slower. Most importantly is that this calculation is done before armor is factored in. An expected 4 damage will always iframe an expected 1 damage, even if that 1 damage ignores all armor. To fix the inconsistency of protection, there would need to be a constant high damage source we can reliably tank without taking too much damage. This would negate both the thorns and starvation, allowing for reliable survival of the player. Wish that existed. That can't be of any help, right? I mean, it's nice to see the buff, but that can't make them viable. Lava deals 4 damage. And thanks to the recent changes in the specialized protection enchantments, if you max out fire protection, you can survive in lava for a long time. And with a boosted beacon and resistance 1, you can survive indefinitely. And because lava always deals 4 expected damage, you will always iframe both the guardian thorns and the starvation damage. This changes guardian farming substantially. You are now safe to attack without having to eat, and can attack at any pace, no matter the amount of guardians. The fastest guardian farms in the game, now trivial to turn into looting setups. Now, of course, there are some caveats. First is the fire protection needed. 3 of your diamond armor pieces need full fire protection. You also need the aforementioned boosted beacon and resistance 1. But if you upgrade to netherite armor, you no longer need that resistance 1. Next is to make sure that the armor doesn't break. There are many ways to check for player attacks or guardian spawning, but even then, you now have a free offhand. Skulk sensors detect tomes of undying triggering with a signal strength of 3. So nothing stops you from just teleporting the player to safety just in case. And lastly, this armor stuff just needs to remain unchanged. I should quickly explain the entity placement. Dispense 9 rafts onto each side, push into the side of the stair with fences, push up the composters from underneath, and then push in the side glass. The raft should be flush with the corner of the bubble elevator. I've already explained earlier where the armor stand goes, and to use it, you just stand in the little indent the wall provides and attack the armor stand. That's literally it. The rest is just placing blocks. It really can't be that hard for you. I believe in you. The rest of the farm relies on intuitive mechanics. If your special shit server can't handle logic, I don't know what to tell you. So let's recap. We position the player to concentrate the spawns, use bed to funnel the guardians, align the armor stand to allow a 4-wide kill chamber, and lastly, use lava to survive the guardian thorns. Now for granted, the previous solutions of course still works, but I find this to provide a much cleaner solution, one that I find being used in many guardian farms to come, or at least just be a cute little trick to show your friends. Thanks for watching, and thank you for 1K even though I'm at 1.6 right now. I'd like to thank Ryan for making the tools that allow this video to be possible, Correct0 for plugging, compiling, and code review, everyone in TMCC for code review, video, and script feedback, my own classmates and coworkers that got us up for this shit as well, and all of you for supporting this channel.